Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show, where we dive deep into the stories that shape our world, our health, and our lives. I'm Natural News, and today we're peeling back the curtain on one of the most powerful and enigmatic agencies in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration. We'll be diving deep through the lens of Fran Hawthorne and her fantastic book, Inside the FDA, the business and politics behind the drugs we take and the food we eat. Now, when you think of the FDA, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's that reassuring stamp of approval on our medications, the seal of safety on our food labels, and the guardian of our health against the powerful forces of the pharmaceutical and food industries. But what if I told you that the reality is far more complex, far more political, and far more fascinating than you ever imagined? Let's start with the basics. The FDA was born out of necessity in 1906, largely thanks to Upton Sinclair's groundbreaking novel, The Jungle, which exposed the horrifying conditions of the meatpacking industry. The public outcry that followed led to the passage of the Pure Food and Drug Act, the first major legislation aimed at ensuring the safety of our food and drugs. But here's the kicker. That law was so full of loopholes that it barely made a dent in the rampant fraud and dangerous practices of the time. Fast forward to 1937, and we have another watershed moment. The Massengill Company's elixir sulfanilamide, a drug mixed with a toxic solvent that caused a mass poisoning, killing over 100 people, mostly children. This tragedy finally pushed Congress to pass the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act the next year. This established the framework for the FDA we know today. For the first time, drug manufacturers had to prove their products were safe before they could be sold. But here's where things get interesting. The FDA's power and influence have grown exponentially over the decades, fueled by public health crises, political pressure, and scientific advancements. Today, it oversees roughly 1/4 of the U.S. economy, regulating everything from pet food to pacemakers and from lipstick to lettuce. Now, let's talk about the people behind the scenes. The FDA is staffed by a core of dedicated scientists, doctors, and reviewers who are tasked with the monumental job of ensuring the safety and efficacy of the products we consume. But here's the catch. They're not just scientists. They're also bureaucrats, politicians, and at times, referees in the high-stakes game of big pharma and big food. Take, for example, the story of Rizulin, a diabetes drug that was approved in 1997. Despite warnings about its potential to cause liver toxicity, the drug was still approved for sale, and the concerns of certain FDA scientists were dismissed, and some were even reprimanded for their opposition. Fast forward 3 years, and Rizulin was pulled from the market after being linked to over 60 deaths. And then there's the case of Erbitux, the cancer drug that became a political football. The FDA's initial rejection of Erbitux, citing insufficient data, was met with fierce criticism from Congress and the drug's manufacturer, ImClone. But here's where things get murky. The FDA's decision to transfer the review of Erbitux to a different center, which was perceived as more industry-friendly, raised questions about political influence and industry pressure. Was the transfer a strategic move to expedite the approval of a promising cancer drug, or was it a capitulation to political and industry pressure? The truth is, we may never know. But what is clear is that the FDA operates in a world where science and politics are inextricably intertwined. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the influence of the pharmaceutical industry. The FDA is often accused of being too cozy with big pharma, and there's no denying that the industry wields significant power. From lobbying Congress to funding patient advocacy groups, from user fees that help fund the FDA's operations to the revolving door between the agency and the industry, the influence is undeniable. And then there's the issue of direct-to-consumer advertising. In 1997, the FDA opened the floodgates to TV commercials for prescription drugs, a move that has transformed the way we think about medicine. These ads are slick, persuasive, and often misleading. They promise miracle cures, downplay side effects, and create a demand for the newest, most expensive drugs, even when older, cheaper alternatives may be just as effective. Critics argue that DTC advertising turns medicine into a commodity, manipulates consumers, and drives up healthcare costs. but proponents argue that it empowers patients, encourages them to seek medical care, and provides valuable information. So what's the solution? Should the FDA ban DTC advertising? Should it impose stricter regulations? Or should it take a more proactive role in educating the public about the risks and benefits of the drugs we take? The truth is, there are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. The FDA's role is evolving. It's no longer enough for the agency to simply approve drugs and food products. It must also grapple with the broader implications of its decisions, from the cost of medicine to the ethics of new technologies, from the impact on public health to the way we live our lives. As we look to the future, the FDA faces a daunting challenge. It must adapt to the rapid pace of scientific advancement, navigate the treacherous waters of political pressure, and balance the competing demands of industry, consumers, and public health. But here's the good news. The FDA is not alone. We as consumers have a role to play. We must educate ourselves, ask questions, and demand transparency. We must hold the FDA accountable, while also recognizing the difficult job it faces. So, the next time you pop a pill or open a can of soup, remember, there's a whole world of science, politics, and business behind that seemingly simple act. And the FDA is at the heart of it all, trying to keep us safe, healthy, and informed. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share with your friends. And join us next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, I'm Natural News, telling you to stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.
This has been a Books Alive video from Natural News on the book Inside the FDA, The Business and Politics Behind the Drugs We Take and the Food We Eat by Fran Hawthorne. Visit BrightLearn.com for more fascinating videos like this one, and visit naturalnews.com for full editorial coverage and breaking news on critical stories that keep you informed and aware of what's really going on.